Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today you are going to see the highest experience of all time at tier 9 or tier 10 in a matchup where nobody has disconnected. Now, there are a few higher experience games that have been uploaded to the What Replays website. However, those are games where the enemy team has disconnected, and so the hero of the battle, or shall I say, the fortunate individual, hasn't disconnected, drives in and farms up. Today you're going to be seeing literally the highest experience game that's been uploaded to What Replays of all time at tier 9 or tier 10. And the hero, congratulations to you in advance, is Zil44. And Zil44 is doing me proud as he is sporting the very fetching QB camo. Oh, and we can see that Zil is also a monster in their Tortoise if they are packing 3 marks of excellence. I'm already getting excited for this one, even though I have already seen it, watched it a couple of times already. So, what is Zil going to do? Well, I mean, if it's going to be the highest experience game of all time at tier 9 or tier 10, you know it's got to be a good one. And Zil is starting hot, right? Setting a charioteer on fire. That's a lower tier British tank destroyer that looks like they need to go and pick another tank inside the garage. They are playing the one, the only, it's the Tortoise. And this vehicle is basically the best tank, tier for tier, in the game, at least with regards to its average performance across the player base. Why is it so good? I mean, it's probably easier to list the reasons why it isn't good. I guess it doesn't have the best flexibility, it doesn't have a turret, even though it's got a very wide gun arc. It does have a weak point on top, and it's not the fastest. That's it. It's got amazing accuracy, the second highest damage per minute in World of Tanks. But it's only just a little bit less damage per minute than its bigger brother, the Badger. And considering that it's a whole tier lower, I'd rather have 3,380 damage per minute than whatever it is, like 3,380.9 damage per minute at tier 10. Zil a little bit unhappy with themselves. They're missing some damage in this game. You can tell they're really wanting to farm this up against the T832. The Tortoise also is, at least for me, an incredible vehicle because of just the armor. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to think, but what about the weak points on top, QB? And yeah, you're right, it does have weak points on top. But the thing is that they're quite small. It's not the easiest thing to hit. And Wargaming made such a big mistake by buffing the Tortoise massively. They made it so now you actually have to hit the center of the weak point, literally where these 2 MG ports are. You can't actually hit the outside, as we can see it's ricocheting off. Even if you fire gold, you sometimes can't even go through the outside of the weak point, which makes this thing just absolutely intimidating for any tank, let alone maybe the tier 7s that this vehicle can meet. When you add to that a huge glut of hit points, then not only does this vehicle have arguably the best gun tier for tier in the game, it also has the durability to be able to use it, and the flexibility with 10 degrees of gun depression. Honestly, I think if Wargaming were going to suggest of putting the Tortoise into the game right now, everyone would. If it was a premium tank, everyone would freak out. I think the only thing that really keeps this thing balanced is that it is a tech tree tank, and it does end up costing quite a lot of credits to play, as more often than not, when you do have one of the fastest rates of fire, when you start to load gold in this tank, yeah, it can get a little bit painful. This is the same gun that's on the Super Conqueror, for example. It's got 259 standard pen to 326 on the premium rounds with great shell velocity, but these are some of my favorites. These are Hesh rounds on this vehicle with 120 millimeters of penetration and 515 alpha damage, and that means that when you can get the side of lightly armored opponents, or even just the front of lightly armored opponents, then you can turn up your about 4,800 damage per minute, which is what Zil will be achieving with the bond equipment they're using on this tank, to an absolute outrageous amount. But still, even with crazy damage per minute and being able to farm the entirety of the T30 there, nobody wants to take a 750 alpha damage bomb from the tier 9 American tank destroyer. And Zil loses a large amount of their hit points, over about 40% of their hit points in a single shot there, which is the American TD. But, like, here's the crazy thing. We're 4.5 minutes into this game, and Zil has already what many people would consider to be like an ace tanker kind of game for a tier 10. 6,000 damage and 900 assistance. This is going to get quite scary. I mean, of course it's going to get quite scary. You've seen the title of the video. This is the highest experience that anyone's ever got, at least uploaded to the What Replays website in any tier 9 or tier 10 tank. And you think it would be in a premium vehicle, but then again, probably not. The premiums in World of Tanks, at least for now, are still quite balanced. Thank goodness for that. They're not really better than the tech tree tanks. The Tortoise, however, definitely is. One of the most crazy things about the Tortoise is that the vehicle that you see down below it, just over there, the T95, was recently nerfed. Wargaming considered that the T95 was overpowered, but they didn't consider that the Tortoise was overpowered, which is crazy because when you look at the statistics of this vehicle, I think it's overperforming in every single way. I guess that Wargaming just thought that the American tank destroyers were too popular, and those are the ones that are causing the issues, not the British TDs. I think probably the Badger as well. I personally think if you're a great player, the Badger is an overperforming tank at tier 10. It's about as meta as it gets. Hold down, great frontal damage dealing, and that's sometimes all you need in World of Tanks. I would personally nerf the Tortoise and nerf the Badger, although I know that there's probably a lot of people out there who are like, no, don't touch my Badger or my Tortoise. Yeah, but for every time that you play the vehicle, when you play all of your other tanks, you just have to deal with it, right? Talk about deal with it. That's a Hesh round going in through the side of the standard B. Unfortunately, Zil 44's second Hesh round doesn't manage to connect with the tier 9 Italian medium. Okay, so Zil is now up to 8,000 combined, but they've got to be a little bit careful because there's still 6,000 hit points on the enemy team, and they fired all of their armor-piercing rounds. So they have 10 APCR rounds left, and you've got to be careful when you're going to be shooting things like a BZ-176 or alternatively a T-95. Luckily, the BZ-176 is low on hit points, and the other 4 or 5 tanks in this matchup are definitely pennable with HE, so not too much to worry there. But Zil also wants to be considering firing HE shells now rather than firing the AP shells against these lightly armored targets in case they need to deal with a one-on-one against the T-95 later on. So Zil makes a bit of a misplay here, one of the first ones of the battle, where they go over to try and deal with the TVP, but end up making it not look like the worst trade deal in World of Tanks history, as they pin a HE shell there for 520 on the standard B. A little bit chancy, a little bit lucky, but I can understand why Zil is doing this because there's a lot of pressure on the cap circle. And when you're in a slow tank with the enemies all situated to the east, Zil needs to try and get all of the base defense that they possibly can. It's kind of tricky for the Tortoise in this situation, as you do have that weak point that sticks up. And even then, kind of like the lower plate from that kind of an angle, not the best. Oh my lord, look at this 500 damage, following it up 5 seconds later with 335 damage HE pen in the side. Now we're really cooking. We're talking about 8,500 damage now with 900 assistance, and there is the ELC with only 20 seconds left on the cap. The lovely HE pen there by Zil 44 manages to shut down the tier 8 French light, resetting the cap, securing them, I believe, a defender medal now. So even in a loss, this is this would probably be an ace tanker even without a hero medal at this kind of level, as Zil has now achieved over 9,000 damage. But by resetting the ELC now, they gain a little bit of a respite to reassess the situation and to prepare for the possibility that a BZ-176 or an SU is coming around the corner, and that's a good prediction there. Bounces the armor-piercing shell. If the BZ had fired an HE there, hitting the lower plate is probably still only going to do 100 or 2, so Zil would have probably been able to take a shot from the standard B. Maybe, but definitely not from any of the other vehicles like the SU or the T-95 in this situation. Okay, Zil is literally just this absolute terror. Wherever he goes, he just rains down death and destruction on the enemy team. But unfortunately, the enemies are doing completely the correct thing, which is to force Zil off the hill. But now that there aren't any of the support tanks, I think he's just got to risk it. The SU was actually making their way up onto the hill, while Zil quite rightly decided that he had to go and protect the cap. But the standard B just left the cap circle like an absolute crazy goon. One thing that's crazy about this is Zil is actually doing TD8. This is a mission which most people would play like, I don't know, a Hellcat or something with low hit points to be able to achieve. Because if you do it in a tank at high tier with high amounts of hit points, you've got to do 5 times more damage than your vehicle's hit points, which means that Zil is trying to do nearly 10,000 damage to be able to do TD8, but they've got to survive if they want to do it with honors as well for the Object 260. They're also trying to do Alliance 15, trying to get some ace tankers, which is probably why they're tryharding in the Tortoise. Well, good luck to you, Zil. I hope you... we definitely got the ace tanker here, but whether you're going to be able to take down this 1 versus 2 against nearly 2,000 hit points remains to be seen. Oh, Zill chokes a bit of a shot there against the T-95, but you've got to take your chances here. Zill sits still, just says, let the chips fall where they may, and luckily this T-95 is using the 120mm, meaning that they have low pen, and Zill gets to shoot multiple times in there for every time the T-95 reloads, even if they're using the 120. And just like that, Zill is now over 10,000 damage with 900 assistance, having vanquished over 2/3, or 2/3 exactly, of the enemy team. But now, between our hero and ultimate victory lies one sneaky Soviet flexible tank destroyer. The Su-130 PM has 520 alpha damage. Zill, as we can see here, has 500 hit points. That means that any penetrating shot will be literally flipping a coin to see whether Zill is going to get shut down. However, the Su is packing 1,100 hit points. That means that if Zill penetrates 2 high explosive rounds, he's still a slight underdog to be able to finish him off. And that could mean that Zill has to fire 3 times against the Su, which will take about 10 seconds in this tank. Not a long time to fire from the first shot. And these are all things that you have to consider when you're fighting these 1 versus 1 scenarios. Especially 1 versus 1 scenarios where you're trying to cement the greatest game of all time at tier 9 or tier 10, like worldwide. Well, actually that's not true. There might have been higher experience games uploaded onto the What Replays Are You website, but at least from the Western perspective, which I believe also the Asia server and NA definitely upload onto What Replays EU. Come on, Zill, take this one down for the team. Okay, so in this kind of situation, there's just a little bit of a stressor as to where the Su is. I think Zill maybe should have gone towards the cap circle there, but if he does go into the cap circle, he makes himself open to flanking. But one of the worst things now is that he doesn't have enough time to be able to fully cap out the base. And oh my gosh, Su behind. Zill goes round the corner. The Su misses the shot. And now Zill has got the Su right where he wants him, right in front of the tier 9 British TD. The Su seemingly not wanting to test a Tortoise that's managed to pick up 10 kills, quite rightly decides to avoid and reassess the situation. The Su, no slouch on the enemy team. If they picked up 3 frags this game, is going to be a worthy challenger to test Zill's mettle. Oh my word. I can only imagine how much Zill 44's heart was pumping going into the cap circle right now, spotted by the Su. That's not what you want. That now means it's going to be harder for Zill to come around the corner, but I guess they've just decided that they're going to let the chips fall where they may as they make their way towards the cap. And now inside the cap circle, that's going to interrupt the cap, which will mean the Su knows exactly where Zill is. Now, looks like Zill is trying to bait the Su into firing. The Su actually shoots the gun, but Zill decides to not repair the gun, I guess keeping it in case they manage to get tracked in this scenario. Okay, the Su looks like they're going to go all in, make the flanking play. Zill is going to auto-aim with a broken gun and let the chips fall where they may. Angles correctly to be able to avoid the shot, and Ram kills the Su. I mean, oh, the fire for victory, the adrenaline, the excitement at the end of the game. Dude, it was palpable. I could sense this. Zill just showing off at the end of the battle, ramming the latest victim on their tally to be able to pick up 11 kills, and just picks up just the dream game. This is like the 1 in a million game of World of Tanks, right, boys and girls? And when we think about it, this is more like 1 in a billion kind of game of World of Tanks, as Zill 44 secures a new all-time record for experience at tier 9 and tier 10 that's been uploaded to What Replays EU. And you know what, Zill? I'm flattered you did it with the QB camo. It's obviously got to be lucky for some, even though it's quite often not lucky for me. So drum roll please, just what exactly is the experience record at tier 9? Well, it's 2,417. That's pretty much double the experience that you would need to get an ace tanker in most tier 9 and tier 10 tanks. And remember, an ace tanker is top 1%. So this is like doubling the requirements to be 1% in World of Tanks. Zill says they got very nervous and lucky at the end of the game, and this was apparently a 40,000 game with regards to WN8. Also highlighting that 2 more games like this than the 279E will be yours. Well, Zill, I mean, if you play like this, you're going to get the ace tankers just in 2 games, definitely not needing the entire streak. So this was a Pools medal for those 11 kills, a high caliber for 11,700 damage, more than I've ever been able to do in a tier 9 tank, let alone an OP tier 10 like the 279E. As well as getting a defender medal for protecting the cap circle, a steel wall medal for blocking 5,600 damage, enough to kill this tank nearly 3 times over. And the only thing that I didn't like is see that Zil didn't make a profit in this game, even though they fired all of their armor piercing and HE rounds correctly. And so Zil, the least thing that I could do is to be able to get you a reward. So while I was at Tank Fest, I managed to get some of these bonus codes that have a Matilda LTV, a week of premium, a Chieftain prototype rental, 2D style, and some premium consumables. I'll be sending that to you in-game. So you can at least make a load of credits while you continue on your epic journey to get the 279E. So Zil44, what is there to say apart from a massive congratulations to you on an all-time experience record at tier 9 and tier 10. Thank you so much for uploading your replay onto the What Replays website and for putting QB in the title. That's the best way to get my attention and to know that you want to be featured on the channel, although you have to have an exceptional game as well. And a massive thank you to you for also repping the QB style in World of Tanks. And I really hope all of you out there loved this video as much as I did. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Monday, I'm going to be going live with new Twitch tokens all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. So come get some awesome rewards. We're also hopefully seeing a few reasonable good games, although, yeah, maybe not like this caliber. So really looking forward to seeing you all live right now. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.